Wait, what about weird?
Hi, I'm Elena,
And I'm Echo.
and this is our podcast, What About Weird, a podcast dissecting all things weird from cryptids and aliens to strange science and unhinged history. I really need to work on breathing while I'm doing our intro.
It's also so funny now that we put the word dissecting in there instead of discussing. You put so much emphasis on that one word.
It's because I highlighted it and I'm like, emphasis. We were joking about putting it in caps and like yelling it, so I'm putting the emphasis because I know I will mess it up if I forget
Okay, well, today we are recording an episode.
again.
Yeah, it's going to be the second time that we do this one. Luckily, it's a shorter episode.
And I forgot
So
everything you already told me, so.
Oh, well, that's good. Unfortunately, because I was editing the previous one that we recorded, I remember at least the first two that you did. So I'm so sorry. I will not be able to feign my surprise at those ones. Um,
Oh no. I remember vaguely what you talked about, but it's okay. The people don't know.
yes. So anyway, we are going to discuss some of the truth behind old wives' tales. So as we know, a lot of old wives' tales simply have no real basis behind them, at least not scientifically, but we wanted to bring a few to the table that do actually have a scientific explanation behind them.
Yeah, it's just another fun little one of our, I don't know, what do we call them? Anthology mix and match episodes. We need to come up with a title for
I
these
know, we
types of
do.
episodes because we have the weird talk and then we have our researched episodes.
I mean, these are research, they're just like
They're
joint research.
yeah, and like I don't know, all hodgepodge. We need to come up with a name for these. We'll figure it out. So do you want to start or shall I start?
You go ahead and do
Okay,
your first two that are tied
first
together.
two. Okay. It would help if I had my fucking notes pulled up. I almost just started reading our general notes. S- So, you've probably heard, like one of your grandparents or someone say that they know the weather is going to change because they can feel it in their joints, or if you have any sort of joint issue yourself, you may have also noticed this. And if you're like me, you might have thought, oh, it's probably just some like psychological thing because someone always said that they could, tell if the weather was changing. But there is actually some science behind that. So the drop in barometric pressure means that the cartilage will expand and it'll swell. And obviously, this swelling hurts. It's kind of this, it's kind of what is with, my brain isn't working. Help me out. The
Arthritis?
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? I'm so glad you could read my mind because I didn't give you any hints. I was just like joints hurting. But it's the swelling is what makes it hurt. So usually when it's going to rain, it means that there's the barometric pressure drops. So that'll make your joints swell, and that causes pain. The cold weather or an incoming cold front, or that can also make the cartilage stiffer. I think the first time we record this, I described it as like butter in the fridge versus on the counter, how it like gets hard when it's colder, but it's so that will also cause some pain. And these more rapid changes, as opposed to like a quick change over time, a change over a long period of time, these quick changes obviously change. It's a lot of density changing and like viscosity changing of your cartilage. That I don't think viscosity is the right word for something that's not liquid, but
Is
the
this what's happening with my spine? Is because it was like 80
maybe
degrees and then it dropped down to fucking 30 and my back's like, I'm dying.
I mean, maybe because my knees have been going insane lately. For the sake of this episode, it's because of the weather.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I have no scientific backing to say whether your spine hurting right now is because of the weather, though.
I'm going to bring that up at the doctor's office tomorrow. I'm going to be like, I think it's the weather. And my doctor's going to be like, what?
Shut up, you old crone. But yeah, so that's why your joints hurt when the weather's about to change or when it's changing a bunch. And in a similar vein, you can use pine cones to predict the weather because they will open and close depending on the moisture in the air. And it's to do with that's to do with the moisture. The joints thing is to do with pressure. So it's slightly different. But with pine cones, when they soak up a bunch of water or get really wet from like moist air, they will tighten up. And then as they dry, they'll start opening up more and the wood will bend. Think how if you've ever had like a piece of wood and one side gets wet and it warps. It's the same thing, just on like a super tiny level with the pine cone instead of a 2x4. So you'll sometimes see, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I've seen people that'll like hang a pine cone up by their door to tell if it's going to rain or not.
Yeah, I've seen them sold in stores before, which is like I could
Why
literally
are
just
you
go out and
selling
get
a
a pine
pine
cone.
Just pick
Because
one
they
up.
come with like a cute little sign that explains why the fucking pine cone can predict the weather. And it's like I would literally rather just go out into my yard and pick up a fucking pine cone.
Dude, the things people will buy instead of make, and then they'll tell artists that they can make something at home, but then we'll go buy a pine cone on a string to predict the weather. Like, you can make a pine cone on a string at home. You can't replicate my art style well, with AI now you can, but that's icky.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
And if
Also,
you do that, I personally hate you and you're a bitch if you steal other people's art with AI.
agreed. Well, interesting. My first wives' tale is also weather related. Mine is red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in morning, sailor's warning. Typically, weather moves from west to east. This means storms generally move in from the west. Colors in the sky can be seen as rays of sunlight are split into a spectrum of colors as they pass through the atmosphere. The rays
Like a prism.
then, yes, like a prism. The rays then ricochet off of water vapor and particles in this atmosphere. And the amount of said water vapor and particles can be an indicator of weather conditions, and they also determine which colors we see in the sky. During sunrise and sunset, when the sun is low in the sky, the light is transmitted through the thickest part of the atmosphere. A red sky would indicate that the atmosphere is full of dust and moisture particles. We see the color red because red wavelengths are the longest wavelength on the color spectrum and are able to break through the atmosphere, while shorter wavelengths, such as blue, are dispersed and broken up. So when we see a red sky at night, that means as the sun is setting, the light is passing through a high concentration of particles, which would indicate high pressure and stable air coming from the west. This is an indicator that good weather will follow. A red sunrise means that the high pressure system, aka the good weather, has already passed and the low pressure or storm system may be moving to the east. So, a dark red sky in the morning could also indicate that the air is full of moisture, which means rain could be on the way.
Weather stuff is so cool. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I went through a phase of wanting to become a meteorologist. And then I was like, there's too much physics here, and I'm not smart enough for physics.
I never really cared about the weather that much as a kid, to be completely honest. Like I just kind of like I learned about the water cycle and then I kind of just didn't give a shit about it after that.
I think what did it for me was that my school took a trip to our into like the weather news station, and we got to see like all the cool weather equipment and see them like doing the my brain is not working, the meteorology and like reading the stuff, and we got to see like weather balloons in person, and I was just like, this is so cool. And that was like the first time I ever went into like a quote unquote science like lab center area that wasn't like a museum or like, you know, going into my dad's work with him as a kid. So I think I saw that and I was like, I love the weather.
When I was in 6th grade, we had this meteorology project where we actually had to like read the graphs and do the calculations. And it was one of the worst assignments ever. Like it sucked.
Yeah, I think that like all the math and the like physics aspects of it is what turned me off of it. The fun thing about like wildlife biology and ecology and stuff is that that gets to play into it, but you don't have to know too much of the, you know,
Yeah.
the
You get to know
numbers.
it from like the general sense and the biology sense. You don't have to learn it from like the fucking
Yeah, I don't have
hard
to.
math sense.
Dude, I was going when we did the Spark Rangers episode, I was going a little cuckoo researching all trying to understand the physics of lightning. It was really cool and fascinating. And people should go listen to that episode because I worked really hard on trying to understand weather stuff. But yeah, no, I was going a little cuckoo trying to understand like this particle hits this particle, and then that static from here to here, and this and that. This is what makes lightning. I just want to go, ooh, look, clouds.
Okay, what is your next wives' tale?
So my next one is a super quick, simple one. There's I don't know if you've ever heard this. I think outside of the last time we recorded, but you should never bring an old broom to a new house. It's considered bad luck. And you should never bring a outside broom inside to be used. That's also considered bad luck. And this is a lot of times bad luck is associated with like, now you have a bunch of bugs in your house, or there's, you know, mold and fungus, or, whatever. And that's, if you just kind of logically think your way through it, it's pretty obvious why this, like the science behind this. It's just because you're just transporting stuff on the bristles to a new space. So if you're bringing something from outside in, you'd be bringing all the like bugs and critters that are outside, or all any like mold or spores that are outside inside. And with bringing it from an old place to a new place, it's sort of a similar thing. Anything that's in the area, little critters, maybe something like sometimes bugs will lay eggs in, the bristles of brooms because it's all safe for them. And then they'll hatch in your new house and oh no, you have bugs. So it's sort of the bad luck is what
It's just
do you
germ
view
theory
as.
based.
Yeah, it's just germ theory based. It's the same sort of a thing of you don't want to bring wood from like firewood from somewhere else when you're camping because you can release something that's invasive, like with the whole scorpions and mesquite wood for smoke houses. And now we have a scorpion problem in North Carolina.
That's crazy.
So, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's the same sort of a, just don't transport like germs and bugs and stuff. So,
And I know when you had told me this the first time, I was like, actually, I had never heard this like in my life, but just from general knowledge and using my brain, I've always been like, hey, we have a designated outdoor broom and an indoor broom. And anytime I move to a new place, I get a new broom. It's just like something that I've practiced despite not knowing the old wives' tale, because it just kind of seemed like a common sense
basic
thing to
common
me.
sense thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been sort of the same with me of like the basic common sense stuff, but then there's also, some superstitions, and there's whole like spiritual and religious connotations around, or like things around bringing an old broom into a new space of like it carries the energy, and it's like quote unquote spiritual dirt. So there's some like, there's stuff there, but just from a scientific standpoint, you're just bringing different bugs into a new space. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting one of like, what do you consider, kind of makes you wonder, what do you consider luck? Is it lucky to not have bugs, or is it using common sense? So that was mine. What's your next one?
My next one is health related. Actually, my next two are, but this first one is: woe to the child who tastes salty from a kiss on the brow, for he is cursed and soon will die. Salty skin is a symptom of cystic fibrosis, which is a chronic genetic disorder that primarily affects the respiratory, digestive, and reproductive systems.
I just want to say that that line that you said, the woe to the child that's with a salty brow, that sounds like the intro to a sick ass metal song.
Oh my
It kind of
God.
sounds like the
That's
intro to
amazing.
Number of the Beast that I did in our Satanic Panic episode, one of those. But
It's
like,
so
if
funny.
there's anyone listening in a metal band, use that as an intro to one of your songs.
Please, and then send it to us because I want that
Yes.
so bad now.
Yeah, just like that whole spoken line dramatically, and then, you know, give me some chugging riffs. Like, I could get down with that. Sorry, continue about the cystic fibrosis, was it?
Yes. Yeah. So, cystic fibrosis can often manifest as chronic lung infections, pancreatic disease, sinusitis, and infertility. Cystic fibrosis is often associated with shortened lifespans, and the most common cause of death is end stage lung disease. To have cystic fibrosis at the time of the old wives' tale meant an early death because this condition was not understood and could not be treated. And although we have come a long way in our diagnosis and treatment of the disorder, it remains a life limiting condition. Basically, there's no cure for it. You can only get treatment for it. So at this time, this wives' tale was created. When you kissed a child on the head, it was most likely a symptom of them having cystic fibrosis. But of course,
Or
they
they
didn't know
were
that at the time.
very, very sweaty baby.
Yeah. Of course, they didn't know that it was cystic fibrosis at the time, and they certainly didn't have a way to diagnose it and treat it back then. So these kids would just die. So basically, if you kissed a kid and they were salty, you just knew. You were like, ah, shit, this one's going to be gone because they just
Shit, we
eventually
overseasoned
die
them.
of like lung disease. So it's a sad one, but at least modern medicine has helped.
Yeah, that's a weird. I think the first time we recorded this, I said I'd never like heard it, and I don't remember where you said you had heard it.
It's definitely not a common one at all these days. Like, I don't think I've ever actually heard somebody use it because we're not really concerned with our children dying from being salty nowadays. So I don't think it's been used in a long time. But
Sorry, kid, you have a severe case of saltiness.
I did read it in a science article one time where they were explaining why it was a thing.
Oh, that's cool. I need to read more science magazines. I've picked some of like the Smithsonian magazines up and stuff, and I need to get more of them. I love a good magazine.
Me too.
So, shall I do my last one?
Yes.
On this podcast, we've briefly touched on the color haint blue before, and if you're at all familiar with any Southern folklore or anything, or if you have spent time in the South, you've probably seen the color haint blue. It's that light, super light, almost sky blue color that you'll see around windows or will be only on the roofs of or the ceilings of porches. A lot of times this is meant to keep away spirits and bring good luck and keep away the haints, which is why it's called haint blue. Haints being like haunts, ghosts, spirits. But it's also said that this color can repel bugs. So I had heard this. I had never heard this one before, and then my partner brought it to my attention when I was researching this episode. So when I went into researching it, I was like, okay, why is it said that, I didn't know if it was a thing of, bugs being connected with bad spirits sometimes in folklore, and if it's something to do with that. But it turns out that it is no longer, but it used to be a really excellent bug repellent. And that's because back in the day, it was used for, or when they made the paint, they used lye or lime for some of like the fixings and the, like the fixants in the color. I'm not sure. I don't remember the correct term off the top of my head, and also for some of the like light, making it lighter. And this is a natural bug repellent, but it no longer works because we don't have lye or lime-based paints anymore. We
Unless
have
you make your
different
own paint.
unless you make your own paint. And there was a interesting study done on like why this is the case, and they think that it's still said. Some people still say it because it worked a long time ago, but people have been reporting that it didn't work, like with more newer paints, and we're like, oh, it's probably just some old wives' tale. And somebody did a whole bunch of like did some studies on like different paint and like, oh, does this actually not work anymore? Or, is it just an old wives' tale or whatever? And they found that it was just that it has to do with the compound, like the makeup of the paint. So it has nothing to do with the color and all to do with the ingredients in the paint, which I thought was fascinating. I wish it was the color, because then I would just like wear Haint Blue all the time in the summer, because mosquitoes love me and I despise them. And bug spray does not work in the South because they're on drugs. The bugs are on drugs.
So
But
if it's lye that they were adding to this paint, does that mean soaps that are made with lye are also like bug repellent?
yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Interesting. Not
Yeah, and
me
like
mixing some paint up so that I can paint my whole house this color and not
I'm
have
sure
bugs
your landlord
anymore.
will love that.
Oh yeah, they would just show up to do an inspection. They're like, "What the fuck?"
See, my landlord wouldn't care. He would just be like, "Don't miss a spot."
Isn't your house already blue in a lot of spots?
It's not Haint Blue. I don't know. It's a weird mix between Duke and Carolina blue. It's like a I don't know. My house is mostly gray though, but it's the
That's
windows and
true.
doors that are blue.
So my last wives' tale is the one that chocolate helps with menstrual cramps, which I'm really happy there's actually some science behind this because I love me some chocolate.
I love a good
Dark
little treat.
dark chocolate that is 70% cocoa or higher is nutrient diverse and contains magnesium, iron, potassium, and antioxidants that help regulate blood flow, hormonal fluctuations, and pain management. Magnesium in chocolate also works to relax the muscle of the uterus and decreases the production of prostaglandins, which are hormone like substances in the body that are associated with inflammation and pain. Potassium is an essential nutrient and is also an electrolyte, meaning it is found in the body as an ionized salt. Potassium works together with sodium across the cell membrane to help regulate muscle contractions. So, an imbalance of potassium may lead to cramping. Finding potassium in foods such as chocolate can help with this. The iron aspect is also important. Iron absorption increases during menstrual bleeding as a mechanism to replace iron that is lost through the blood. Keep in mind that most chocolates are very low percentage cocoa and often contain more milk, sugars, and other additives than the actual helpful component. So you want to be on the lookout for that 70% cocoa content or higher in dark chocolate with less other ingredients added.
I wonder if I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I've heard people say that like wine is good for period cramps as well. And I wonder if it has something to do with some of those things, because I know it has like antioxidants and stuff. I don't know I'm not a food scientist and I don't know the chemical makeup of wine other than alcohol and sugars, but it'd be interesting to look into that as well.
Because I know, especially with alcoholic beverages like wine, it's a very, very small amount because if you like ingest more than that, then obviously you're going to have to worry about like the alcohol doing more harm than any other compound in it could be doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think someone just wanted an excuse to have wine.
It does look like wine does contain small amounts of minerals such as potassium, calcium, magnesium, and iron, which are the ones I was literally just talking about. But then again, a lot of foods do that you probably don't want to ingest on
Grape
a
juice
daily basis.
like
Yeah. So
minimal minimal sugar grape juice probably is better. But
I think like chocolate specifically has like a really good concentration of those things. It's not just like trace amounts like in most other natural foods, which is why I think it helps more.
gotcha. Well, you heard it here first. Get chocolate. Eat chocolate. Get your girlfriends and wives chocolate.
Yes, and if anyone ever shames you for eating a bunch of chocolate when
Just send them this
you're
episode.
yeah, when you're having a hard time, say fuck you. They said it was good for me.
Before we do the outro, I would like to say that we did order some more stickers. I don't think we said anything the last time we did stickers. We posted it on Instagram, but we have those. I'll post the pictures of them on Instagram when we get them. But they have been ordered for people who want more stickers because those are pretty popular. And we have not just our logo designs, but we have a couple more designs coming. So I'll probably talk more about it whenever we get those. But we have those coming. We have stickers. We're gonna have stickers,
keep
y'all.
an eye out for them because they're so cool and some of them are really funny.
I did the designs myself. So, and if you're not on Instagram to see that, I don't know, email us if you want to see the stickers, or if you're not on Instagram, you probably know us personally. So just like reach out to me.
Thank you for listening. If you liked it, please rate the podcast and share it with the weird people in your life. Follow us on Instagram at whataboutweird.pod, where we often share pictures related to the episodes. We are also on Blue Sky as What About Weird Pod. If you have any topic suggestions or personal weird stories, please DM us or email us at whataboutweirdpod@gmail.com.
And always remember
to ask about the weird.
Bye
for now.